Donald Trump's presidency began with a promise to the Arab American community, a deal of the century that would bring peace to the Middle East. This ambitious plan was touted as a comprehensive solution to one of the world's most enduring conflicts, aiming to address the grievances of both Israelis and Palestinians. Trump's rhetoric was filled with optimism, suggesting that his administration would succeed where others had failed. This pledge, however, quickly collided with the intractable realities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, particularly the volatile situation in Gaza. The Gaza Strip, a small but densely populated area, has been a flashpoint for violence and unrest for decades. The region's history is marred by repeated cycles of conflict, blockades, and humanitarian crises, making any peace efforts extraordinarily challenging. The Gaza Strip, a densely populated coastal enclave, has been a tinderbox of conflict for decades, caught in a complex web of political, economic, and humanitarian crises. The living conditions in Gaza are dire, with high unemployment rates, limited access to clean water, and frequent power outages. The blockade imposed by Israel and Egypt has further exacerbated the situation, restricting the flow of goods and people in and out of the territory. Trump's initial approach, seen as heavily favoring Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, further inflamed tensions. His administration's policies were perceived as one-sided, undermining the trust of Palestinian leaders and the broader Arab world. The close relationship between Trump and Netanyahu was highlighted by their frequent meetings and public displays of camaraderie, which only served to deepen the divide. His decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and move the U.S. embassy there, while popular with his base, alienated Palestinians and drew international condemnation. Jerusalem holds significant religious and historical importance for both Israelis and Palestinians, and the move was seen as a provocative act that disregarded Palestinian claims to the city. The decision sparked widespread protests and violence, further complicating the peace process. The subsequent escalation of violence along the Gaza border, with Palestinian protests met by deadly Israeli force, put the Trump administration in a difficult position. The images of clashes and casualties broadcast around the world painted a grim picture of the situation on the ground. The international community called for restraint and a renewed focus on dialogue, but the cycle of violence continued unabated. The president's son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner was tasked with leading the peace initiative. Kushner, who had no prior experience in diplomacy, faced a monumental challenge. His approach was to leverage economic incentives to bring the parties to the negotiating table, proposing significant investments in Palestinian territories as part of the peace plan. Kushner's lack of diplomatic experience and his close ties to Netanyahu raised concerns about the administration's ability to act as an honest broker. Critics argued that his proposals lacked a genuine understanding of the political complexities and historical grievances that underpin the conflict. The skepticism was palpable among diplomats and analysts who questioned the feasibility of Kushner's vision. The Gaza situation, meanwhile, continued to deteriorate, with the humanitarian crisis deepening and the risk of a full-blown war looming large. The international community's efforts to provide aid were often hampered by the ongoing conflict and restrictions imposed by the blockade. The people of Gaza, caught in the crossfire, faced an uncertain future as the prospects for peace remained elusive. The Trump administration's policies, while ambitious, struggled to make a meaningful impact on the ground, leaving the region in a state of perpetual turmoil. As the Gaza crisis simmered, Netanyahu skillfully shifted the focus to Syria. This was not just a simple diversion but a calculated move to reframe the narrative. By doing so, he aimed to draw international attention away from the immediate conflict in Gaza and towards a broader, more complex issue that involved multiple regional players and had far-reaching implications. He argued that the greater threat to Israel and to the region came from Iran's growing influence in Syria and its support for Hezbollah in Lebanon. This narrative was designed to resonate not just with the Israeli public, but also with international allies who were wary of Iran's ambitions. By highlighting the Iranian threat, Netanyahu sought to build a coalition of support that would back more aggressive actions against Iran and its proxies. This strategy played to Trump's own hawkish instincts and his desire to counter Iran's regional ambitions. Trump had long been vocal about his disdain for the Iranian regime, and Netanyahu's framing of the issue provided a convenient justification for a tougher stance. It also aligned with Trump's broader foreign policy goals of projecting American strength and countering perceived threats to U.S. allies. Netanyahu's maneuvering put Trump in a bind. While he was inclined to support his ally, the complexities of the Middle Eastern geopolitics made any decisive action fraught with risk. The stakes were high and any misstep could have severe consequences, not just for the region but for Trump's own political standing. On the one hand, he was eager to please his ally and appease his pro-Israel base. This base was a significant part of his political support, and their approval was crucial for his domestic agenda. The pro-Israel lobby in the United States wielded considerable influence, and aligning with Netanyahu's stance could bolster Trump's standing among these voters. On the other hand, he was wary of getting bogged down in another Middle Eastern conflict, especially one with the potential to escalate into a wider war. The American public was weary of prolonged military engagements, and another conflict could drain resources and political capital. Trump had campaigned on a promise to reduce U.S. involvement in foreign wars, and a new conflict would be a direct contradiction of that promise. Trump's dilemma was further compounded by the fact that his own administration was deeply divided on how to handle the Syrian crisis. Different factions within his team had conflicting views, making it difficult to formulate a coherent policy. This internal discord reflected the broader uncertainties and complexities of the situation, adding another layer of difficulty to an already challenging issue. Secretary of Defense James Mattis, a seasoned military strategist, cautioned against any rash action that could further destabilize the region. Mattis, with his extensive military experience, understood the potential repercussions of a hasty decision. He advocated for a more measured approach, emphasizing the need for careful planning and consideration of the long-term consequences. John Bolton, Trump's national security advisor, took a more aggressive stance, advocating for a forceful response to Iran's actions. Bolton's hawkish views were well known, and he saw the situation as an opportunity to push for a more confrontational approach. His stance added to the pressure on Trump, who had to navigate between these competing perspectives. Caught between these competing voices, Trump's policy on Syria, and by extension Gaza, remained inconsistent and unpredictable. The lack of a clear direction reflected the broader uncertainties and challenges of the situation. As the crisis continued to unfold, the world watched closely, aware that any decision could have far-reaching implications for the region and beyond. Trump's approach to international relations has been characterized by a disregard for traditional norms and a reliance on military power. This approach was evident in his handling of the Gaza crisis, where he showed little interest in diplomacy and instead focused on bolstering Israel's military capabilities. Trump authorized increased military aid to Israel and gave tacit approval to Israeli airstrikes on Iranian targets in Syria. This emphasis on military solutions raised concerns about the potential for escalation and the erosion of international law. Trump's disdain for multilateral institutions and his withdrawal from key international agreements, such as the Iran nuclear deal, further undermined the global order. The administration's legal arguments, often spearheaded by figures like John Bolton, sought to justify the use of force in situations where it had previously been considered unacceptable. This shift in U.S. policy had profound implications for the Middle East and beyond. It emboldened authoritarian leaders, weakened international norms, and increased the risk of conflict. In the context of Gaza, it raised fears that a future conflagration would be even more devastating than previous ones. While Israel possesses one of the most advanced militaries in the world, its Air Force, the backbone of its offensive capabilities, faces unique challenges in a potential conflict with Gaza. The Israeli Air Force, known for its precision and technological superiority, has been a critical component in maintaining the nation's security. However, the evolving nature of warfare and the specific conditions in Gaza present a complex set of obstacles that require constant adaptation and innovation. Years of repeated operations in Gaza have taken a toll on Israel's aging fleet of F-16 fighter jets, many of which are nearing the end of their service life. These jets, once the pride of the Israeli Air Force, now face increased maintenance challenges and operational limitations. The wear and tear from continuous deployment in high-stress environments have accelerated their aging process, making it imperative for Israel to seek replacements or upgrades. The Israeli Air Force has been working to modernize its fleet with newer F-35 stealth fighters, which offer advanced capabilities such as enhanced stealth, superior avionics, and improved survivability in hostile environments. However, these aircraft are expensive and still relatively few in number. The high cost of acquisition and maintenance, coupled with budgetary constraints, means that the transition to a fully modernized fleet is a gradual process. The limited number of F-35s also means that the Israeli Air Force must continue to rely on its older F-16s for many operations. This dual fleet strategy requires careful management to ensure that both types of aircraft are available and mission-ready when needed. The logistical and operational challenges of maintaining two different generations of fighter jets add another layer of complexity to the Air Force's planning and execution. Another challenge for the Israeli military is the threat of internal leaks. In recent years, there have been several high-profile cases of Israeli soldiers leaking sensitive information to the media, often out of moral objections to government policies. These leaks have embarrassed the Israeli government and raised concerns about the military's ability to maintain operational secrecy. The integrity of classified information is crucial for the success of military operations, and any breach can have serious repercussions. The Israeli military has implemented stricter measures to prevent leaks, including enhanced surveillance, rigorous vetting processes, and increased penalties for those found guilty of unauthorized disclosures. Despite these efforts, the risk remains, as the motivations behind leaks can be deeply personal and ideological. The challenge is not only to secure information, but also to address the underlying issues that lead to dissent within the ranks. Furthermore, the densely populated urban environment of Gaza poses significant challenges for air power. The risk of civilian casualties is extremely high, and Hamas, the militant group that controls Gaza, has become adept at using civilians as human shields. This tactic complicates Israel's military calculations and increases the political costs of any future conflict. The Israeli Air Force must balance the need to neutralize threats with the imperative to minimize harm to innocent civilians. The international community closely monitors Israel's actions in Gaza, and any incident of civilian casualties can lead to widespread condemnation and diplomatic fallout. The Israeli Air Force employs advanced precision-guided munitions and intelligence-gathering techniques to mitigate these risks, but the fog of war and the chaotic nature of urban combat make it impossible to eliminate them entirely. The Israeli government and military leadership are acutely aware of these challenges and continuously seek ways to improve their strategies and technologies. This includes investing in new defense systems, enhancing training programs, and fostering international partnerships to share knowledge and resources. The goal is to maintain a qualitative edge over adversaries while adhering to ethical standards and minimizing collateral damage. In conclusion, the Israeli Air Force faces a multifaceted set of challenges in any potential conflict with Gaza. From aging aircraft and the high cost of modernization to internal security threats and the complexities of urban warfare, each issue requires careful consideration and strategic planning. The ability to adapt and innovate will be crucial for Israel to navigate these challenges and maintain its security in an increasingly volatile region. The Israeli Air Force's ongoing efforts to modernize its fleet, secure its operations, and refine its tactics reflect a commitment to overcoming these obstacles. As the nature of conflict evolves, so too must the strategies and technologies employed to address it. The resilience and ingenuity of the Israeli Air Force will be key to its success in future engagements. The stakes are high, and the consequences of failure are severe. The Israeli Air Force must continue to adapt and innovate to meet the demands of modern warfare and protect the nation from emerging threats. The path forward is fraught with challenges, but with determination and strategic foresight, the Israeli Air Force can navigate these complexities and secure a safer future for Israel. The Israeli Air Force's role in national defense is more critical than ever, as it faces the dual pressures of technological advancement and ethical warfare. Its ability to adapt and innovate will determine its effectiveness in future conflicts. The challenges are significant, but so too are the opportunities for growth and improvement. These factors complicate Israel's military calculations and increase the political costs of any future conflict. The Israeli Air Force must navigate these complexities with precision and care, ensuring that its actions align with both strategic objectives and humanitarian considerations. The path ahead is challenging, but with resilience and innovation, the Israeli Air Force can continue to play a pivotal role in securing the nation's future.